Hey everybody, it's Jay, and today I'm talking about something that I've been really excited to get my hands on. This is a Ruger 57. This is not an FN 5.7. It is chambered in 5.7 or 5.7, but they call it a 57, so this is getting to be a headache already. It is a polymer frame, 5-inch barrel, little under 5 inches really, but who's counting, with a striker. No, wait, what is that? It's actually what Ruger calls a double action hammer-fired, internal hammer-fired gun. Sights might be some kind of alloy. They might be steel. I'm not sure. Don't really care. There's some kind of metal. Black in the rear and a fiber optic front. Although Ruger does offer fiber optic replacements, which I have on order and coming in, as well as a drill and tap solution if you want to add their adapter plate to mount a microdot. Of course, it also has an underbarrel accessory rail, like pretty much all guns do nowadays, as well as ambidextrous controls on the safety, and then the mag release is very easily swappable. Right now you can see I have it on the wrong hand. I'll show you in the range footage why. Speaking of the range footage, we'll go ahead and cut over there real quick, and then I'll come back and talk about my initial impressions with this gun. So one thing that I've noticed about this is that my thumb does not reach the magazine eject very easily. I have to like shift my position. But one thing that I can do, and you'll see that the gun is clear, is change the ejection up to be on the other side. Just have to disassemble it, like so. Push this in. I'm going to use the chamber flag that it came with to pop it out. Immediately drop it into the weeds. And then I'm going to push it on the other side by holding the magazine release in on the inside of the frame, pushing it back in with hand tension, and it just drops right in and it's back on. And then put the gun back together like so. Make sure the barrel's to the rear, clip it back in, and now when I hit the magazine release, I can just push it with my index finger or my middle finger without really changing my firing position. It's not very tactical, cool, but it's a little more comfortable for me than trying to reach it the other way. So we're going to finish the rest of this magazine out using Federal ammunition. And it cycled just fine. So I put 40 rounds through it, and then another 60. You only saw the first 40. And I had no issues with all 100 rounds that I shot. I was using a mix of FN Red Box green tip ammunition as well as American Eagle ammunition, and they all function flawlessly. Accuracy seemed real decent with it. Now I was only shooting at 5 to 7 yards, which it's, you know, I mean, you're going to be pretty accurate with most things at that distance. I mean, not everybody is, I guess, but I generally will be. That's not intended to be a brag at all. But I almost had to try not to stack rounds up at that distance. Some of that I think is because of the long sight radius. Some of that could be caliber. But I won't really know what the true accuracy of it is until I get it out to a longer range and do a little bit longer review. This is really more of a hands-on initial first impressions type video. My only complaint about this gun, if you can even call it a complaint, is that the trigger isn't great. I'll try to demonstrate it on camera. I try to do this because it's really hard to describe feel on triggers, and I like for people to have an idea of what they're getting into. But you have this take up with a wall here, and then a long compounding pull before the break. I weighed it at a little over 5.5 pounds, so it's not the heaviest trigger. It's just not crisp. Misha actually said that he thought it was a pretty decent trigger, but it is not a target trigger at all. And I suspect it's because of that, again, what Ruger calls the double action hammer system, because basically once you hit that take up, you're starting to pull against the hammer, cocking back a slight amount before breaking. So not the best trigger in the world, but perfectly functional. It was fine. I'm not going to complain about it really, but I thought I'd call it out because it's really the only thing, like I said, that I didn't especially care for. The grip frame is pretty long from front to back. Not long this way, but long this way. And that's because the cartridge is so long, you have to have a grip frame that long to accommodate the magazines for it. And because of that long grip frame, as you saw in the video, I couldn't really reach the mag release with my thumb without changing my firing position. So I swapped the mag release to the right side so I could bump it with my trigger finger, kind of like the German style paddle release on the PPQ and P99 and all that stuff, which I actually have come to really appreciate anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Mag changes are pretty fast. It is not flared on the mag well, but I found if you kind of come in to catch that hump on the back, they come in and out pretty quickly. Anyway, just something I noticed while I was shooting. It's kind of fun to sit here and do. Not that I was doing that during our Q&A, or in between our Q&A for a long time. Anyway, enough of that. You also saw disassembly was pretty easy. And I talked a little bit about the grip. Pretty aggressively stippled. Kind of has a skateboard grip tape feel to it. So not uncomfortable at all. You know, not so rough it's going to chew up your hands or anything. Not that there's a ton of recoil on this anyway. But I do like the curve in the upper part of the frame and in the body here. And then the little beveled edges in the sides. It really does fit my hand quite well, and it feels good in the hand, even in spite of that long frame. They've done a really good job of mitigating that just through basic considerations of ergonomics. So I'm sure some people will fit a little bit better, some people a little bit worse. For me, it fits pretty decently. Now, I mentioned earlier that I shot about 100 rounds through this in fairly quick succession, and that's really because, guys, this is some of the most fun that I've had shooting a handgun in a while. I've been shooting a lot of full power 357, so maybe that's why. But this was a tremendous amount of fun. Recoil is present, but it is so easy to control and keep on target. I'm coming at this from someone who has never shot a 5.7 millimeter handgun ever. So this is my first one. So for some of you guys who already have FN57s, what I'm talking about is probably old hat to you and is not something unique to this gun. I don't know, because I don't really have any shooting experience at all with the FN57. But I do know that with the Ruger 57, it was just a very consistent, very smooth shooting gun. And it's really hard to articulate. It just, with every movement of the slide, I was just right back on target every time. It just didn't jar my hand at all. It's a totally different feeling, and it's hard to articulate than pretty much any other handgun caliber that I've ever fired. So I can't even say it's like this, but this, because it doesn't feel like anything I've shot before. It's just super fun, and I already have a feeling I'm going to have a hard time keeping ammo in stock for this because I'm going to be feeding this all the time. So that's pretty much my initial impressions. Completely overall, I'm super happy with this. I've been looking forward to this since SHOT Show. And the main appeal to this really is the price point. I believe the FN57, which is, as far as I'm aware, the only other 5.7 pistol 5.7 pistol, see there's the headache again, manufactured by a major firearms manufacturer. And the MSRP on that, again, MSRP, not retail, I know that you can find them cheaper than this, is $14.50. The MSRP on this one is $7.99. Now, since the Ruger, or since the FN, I'm already doing it again, since the FN 57 came out, since the Ruger 57 came out, there we go again. Oh boy. Since the Ruger 57 came out, I've noticed that the FN 57 has come down in price at a lot of dealers. Now that the MSRP has not come down, but I've been seeing a lot of flyers, you know, buy our FN 57 at a new low price of $1,100, $1,150 or so. Whereas the Ruger 57 is still undergoing its early adopter tax, and I'm seeing these mostly above MSRP. I've seen a lot of listings on Gunbroker from about 3 dealers who were, at the very least whenever I looked last time, asking a buy now of over $900, which to me is ridiculous for this. I'm not going to pay over MSRP for a gun. I'm just not going to do it. But I was able to get this for $750, which is a little bit under MSRP. If I had to guess, I'm guessing that they'll end up settling in for around $7, maybe under $7, $650, somewhere around there. I have absolutely no information guiding that. That's just a total guess and personal opinion. Don't quote me on it, etc. So prices definitely vary, but that's the big appealing price point of this that's the big appealing selling point of this, I should say, is that you can finally get into, I think the 5.7 came out in 98. Please don't at me on that. I just didn't double check the date, but it's needless to say it's been out for a while, and it's pretty much been your only game in town if you wanted a handgun in 5.7 that I'm aware of. I know companies like Masterpiece Arms made one of their Defender series in 5.7, and so on and so on, but this is a major manufacturer supporting this, releasing this and supporting this, and offering a comparatively affordable option to the FN 57. So I think that that's pretty cool. I think that that's important for the market to have that competition. I'm sure FN doesn't mind too much that other people will be, well, I should say that more customers will have the ability to buy their ammunition now, because it's not just the one gun that is a little bit prohibitively expensive for a lot of people. I know that when I handled one the first time, the 5.7, Misha had one whenever I bought the PS90 the first time around, and for what they were asking for it, which I think was over $1,300 at the time, it just didn't seem worth it to me. So I never ended up picking one up. But then, of course, as soon as they announced this in the MSRP, I was like, well, yeah, it's finally I can get into something and have a companion piece to my PS90 and another gun to eat the moon caliber that I have to keep for it. So that's always an added benefit as well. So my first impressions, like I said, very positive, super fun gun to shoot. Hopefully the gun will hold up over time. Hopefully it'll be accurate at longer ranges. I'm going to throw the rear fiber optic sights on there and see how I do with that. Haven't decided if I'm going to go the red dot mount option or not. Again, we'll see how we do at a little longer ranges. But it just seems like a pretty well thought out, very well made feeling gun. It doesn't feel cheap and plasticky. I was really expecting something closer to the PMR 30, which I think is a totally fine gun, but it is definitely inexpensive. And this doesn't feel that way. It feels like a proper handgun. Yeah, I don't really have any complaints about it. So yeah, so tune in for future videos. I know Misha's really wanting to shoot it, to give it a shot, and see how he likes it, what he thinks of it. And so I'm sure we'll be back with it later. So this is Jay. Hope you liked the video. Please click like if you did. Be sure to subscribe to us if you have not already. And go check out the link to our Patreon page if you're interested in helping support us, if you're interested in helping me feed